This is Report to Wyoming.
On this show, we talk to Wyoming people about their thoughts and ideas. Coming to Casper August 10th and 11th is a new thing called the Wyoming Fringe Festival. In this episode, I'm trying to get a better sense of what Fringe is all about. So first, I talked to Bill Conte. He is the artistic director with the Theater of the Poor here in Casper. For context, earlier in our conversation, I had brought up the first Fringe Festival in 1946. It took place in Edinburgh, Scotland, and we got to talking about some of the Fringe festivals that have gained popularity in North America since then.
New York City is also a big one. That's the one that I kind of grew up around. And annually, they converge on. I'm not sure if it's every 2 years or every year, but yeah, that's another really big one. And Edinburgh, it's Edinburgh, by the way. So
Edinburgh. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like Edinburgh, and I've been corrected on that too. So it's
good to know. I'm
fine.
Always learning new things.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. And the inspiration was that. So we can save that for our conversation if you'd like.
Absolutely. I saw there's one in Portland that's really big as well. Mm-hmm. Have you been to any around Wyoming?
No, I've only been to New York City.
Okay.
Fringe. That's it.
How big is theirs?
Oh, it's expansive. The New York City Fringe will cover neighborhoods across downtown Manhattan, all of the little theaters, and some of the larger off-Broadway theaters. Acts from all over the country and all over the world come, and there you get to see the cutting edge of performance. You also see new plays, new material, and emerging performers as well, and companies. It's unbelievably exciting.
That seems to be a theme with these, is it's a place where performers can try things out, a safe place to put new things out there. So you are seeing what's to come, really, if you attend these things.
Sure. The future of the theater and of performance generally can be seen in fringe festivals because that's what they're there for. These are the acts, these are the performances, and the performers who are on the fringe and therefore on the cutting edge of the art form, pushing it forward. Not necessarily the most commercial stuff that you'll see at a fringe festival, depending, of course, on the town and the place. But for the most part, the future of performance is being forged in places like this.
And the fringers, if you will, the community is welcoming of play, practice, and just creating that safe place where people can try new things. Yes. It's really like a warm embrace for artists, for actors, musicians, all magicians, all kinds of things that Fringe covers.
You have to think in terms of having an experience that's outside your expectations of what theater and performance ought to be. The experimentation that goes on at a Fringe festival makes it like a laboratory cauldron of activity, of creativity, and the excitement is in seeing the new and the different and the possibilities for what the theater can be. And then you take these ideas and you bring them back to your own community and incorporate them into your own work. And that's how we network with each other, and we feed each other ideas and inspire each other.
Also, the word fringe kind of conjures the image of being on the fringes or the outskirts. I wonder, how much are these festivals known for maybe pushing boundaries?
Yeah, especially Edinburgh, where some kind of outrageous performances have been known to take place, and in New York as well. That is because of the expansive nature of these particular festivals. We won't find anything too out there here in the Casper Fringe Festival, but I think that what we will see here are works that are not typical of the kind of theater or performance that is staged here. We've got some very interesting multimedia performers, dance, music collaborations that are just fascinating to see. So while we're not pushing any kind of boundaries when it comes to content, I think that we are certainly pushing boundaries when it comes to form, and the opportunity that we're offering Casper to experience so much in one place and in one small period of time.
Oh, excellent. I was putting together a gallery for people who don't have a hard time maybe picturing what Fringe is all about. So I was looking at the Edinburgh Fest Fringe. They say there's backwards, or maybe that's just the translation. I don't know. But one of the acts that is expected to be coming this year, like in the next few days, is it's a theater presentation of the Gwyneth Paltrow ski trial. And so I thought that is wild. And I was looking at the pictures, and it's going to be really interesting. And so I wonder if that will make American headlines. But then also to your point about this festival here in Wyoming, it's the first of its kind, right?
Yes. Nothing like this that I have ever heard of has happened in Wyoming. And it's something that a lot of us local performers have been thinking about for some time. We've kicked it around over beers at Old Chicago, and thinking about how much fun it would be if we could all get together and do something that would just sort of amplify our presence throughout Casper. We went to Lindsay Grant over at the Lyric with this idea, and she was very receptive to it. And ultimately, after planning, we have the opportunity now to fulfill that dream that came up here. And for Casper, this is a town that I've noticed since I've lived here is very cosmopolitan in its way. We've got tremendous opportunities for performance and art, and the Fringe brings people from outside of our area to our town, where we can meet them and watch what they've got to offer.
Yeah, now the Rialto being open, they're going to have a lot of comedy, it looks like, magic shows. All of that would be under the umbrella of Fringe as well.
I think so. And if this thing takes off, and I hope it does, it should expand beyond the Lyric into other venues like the Rialto, certainly our Studio Theater, Stage 3, lots of places around town where a Fringe Festival could be presented. That's how it's usually done in New York. You just go from venue to venue, and with sufficient participation, that can happen here.
Casper does seem like a perfect spot for the Wyoming Fringe Festival. We started, I say we because I'm now a Casperite, the first Wyoming opera. I think about our symphony and orchestra, and the tremendous talent, the artists that are ever present. You can see them at Art 321. There's another gallery now on the other side of town. I'm drawing a blank, but in the footnotes, I will tell you what that one is. Musicians, live music, the list goes on, right?
Yes, and that's what makes it such a great place to live. The theater has been around in Casper for decades. Stage 3 goes back to I believe the late 1980s, early 1980s. And this tradition of community theater has been an important part of the culture here. The college also has been providing decades worth of wonderful entertainment. But now what we're seeing is that more and more performers from Casper are going out, getting their experience, and then coming back and occupying places like Stage 3 Community Theater, Opera Wyoming, Theater of the Poor, and they're bringing their talents back to Casper. And what I have noticed is that a professional theater scene of great quality is starting to emerge here, because there are a lot of very serious people who are invested in the theater in Casper. And I would encourage anybody that is interested in expanding their cultural horizons to check out what's going on here in this town. It is a notch above what some people think community theater is all about, which they usually associate with the idea of amateurs and low production values. That's not happening here. If you go to a Stage 3 production, you'll see some of the highest production values that you're going to see anywhere in this area. And our work is different. The Theater of the Poor is focused more on the environment and outdoor productions and classics and things like that. But there's something for everybody. And you will not be disappointed by the quality of the entertainment that you will find here.
Can you give us any preliminary information about what can be expected from your theater at this event?
Yeah, the Theater of the Poor is presenting The Bald Soprano by Eugene Ionesco. This was an absurdist farce that was written back in the 1950s. And the idea of absurdism is to just blow up the whole idea of logic and reason and expose the falsity of communication and the isolation of human beings in the world and how we can never really connect with each other, and how we're all on this sort of loop of repetitious, endlessly boring and meaningless activities in which we are trapped. So this play is written in a circle. It's about two couples that are meeting for a dinner party. It begins where it ends, and so when it ends, it just goes right back to the beginning and we reset it. So we're going to be playing it on a loop while we're in the space. And so the audience can come in at any time to see us and come back out and back in, and we'll still be there doing the show. We did this back in 2022 on a 24-hour loop. We just continued to perform it over and over and over again. And, through the night, even when there was nobody there, we kept performing this. And that's a typical kind of performance art maneuver where you're not just doing a show, the event itself takes on a sort of larger meaning, as you've got 7 actors trapped in a theater performing the same play for a day, embodying the existential crisis of being trapped and not being able to get out. So the actors were literally trapped in the situation while playing characters that were trapped in the situation.
Oh, I love that. So there's a really good chance that if I stop by, I'll catch some part of this.
Absolutely.
24 hours.
Well, if we're not going to be performing for 24 hours at the Lyric, we'll only be performing for a couple of hours on each of the days.
Okay.
But the idea of seeing it in a loop, watching it reset itself, coming in, coming back, watching the same play, and the actors repeating the same thing over and over again gives you the sense of what the absurdist playwrights were trying to catch.
Okay.
Yeah, they want the audience to feel as confused and existentially in crisis as they can. But this is such a funny play. It does it in a way that is so brilliantly hilarious, and in the way that it just upends logic and reason, and it's really actually a lot of fun.
As a performer, how do you connect with the audience here in Casper?
Well, it depends on the show, I think. We try to connect with our audience by presenting plays that we know that they're going to connect with. So we have a group of an audience that enjoys the classics in our manner of presentation, and we relate with them when we're performing, because a lot of the kinds of shows that we do will allow us to talk to them directly. Classical plays will allow for that. You don't really worry too much about the fourth wall when you're in a Shakespeare play or a Greek drama, because there was no concept of that. But we also, I guess, let me just rethink this question a little bit. When you say connect with our audience, do you mean like when we're on stage performing, or?
Could be both, because then I thought like afterwards as well. But when you're performing, how do you connect or relate to your audience?
Well, when I'm performing, I can only speak for myself. All actors have their own experience, but when I'm performing, I feel two minds. One is my own, and the other is the mind of my character. And my own mind is sort of hitching a ride in the backseat of my brain while this other thing is happening. And the audience, I connect with the audience by being as fully present in the character as I can. And I know that the audience has been brought over when they're not seeing me, but they're seeing the character that I'm making. And a phenomenon occurs in the theater that I call the silence of the audience. This is that moment when everybody is rapt with attention. There is no breathing, there is no rustling of programs, there is no coughing. Everybody is just still. And the concentration and the energy is focused entirely on what's coming on that stage and what's coming off the stage. And that transaction that occurs, when you've achieved that, you have connected with the audience in a way that is practically transcendent. It is beyond words, and that's what keeps people coming back to the theater.
Oh, that's powerful. And today we have to grapple with so many different forms of entertainment, but I would argue that Fringe is really, there's more humanity there than going to a movie theater and watching a movie. Not that film isn't fabulous also, but what do you think is significant? And there are probably several things, but the most significant thing to you about the concept of a Fringe Festival?
Newness, freshness, community, networking, the possibility of artists gathering, of audiences seeing new work and becoming aware of new forms, and for us artists to borrow from each other, learn from each other, inspire each other. That to me is the most important part of it. I really think that as much as we can, the performing artists especially have to support each other by going to our shows, being in each other's projects whenever we can, and a lot of that does happen here. It's a really great community of people. Not so much community theater, I think of it as a theatrical community of people that are working all in different companies and on different projects and in different productions, but in a way that I think would be very impressive to outsiders. Given the size of our town, our population, our location, there is some really good work happening here. And the Fringe, I hope, will call even more attention to that.
Now, did you know there's a National Fringe Festival Association?
I didn't know that, but we'll tell Lindsay, and hopefully she'll get us on board with that.
Okay, now you know. And they said that on their website, it says that a Fringe Festival is really a smorgasbord of creativity and new ideas. Yeah. So I think it's important to come with an open mind and be willing to see something maybe you've never seen before. If
this could expand, then we'll get even more of that variety in the future. And right now it's small. It's I think there are 11 of us that are presenting at this festival. With the success of this, it should grow, and hopefully next year there'll be 20. And we'll be able to move it outside of the Lyric and into the different venues around town. And really, anybody within the sound of my voice, I hope that is interested in the theater and has work that they would like to present should reach out to the Lyric and be thinking about next year.
I also sat down with Aubrey Mailloux. She will also be performing at the Wyoming Fringe Festival. She's performing sketches of an hourglass with Cadence Brown. It's a witty work of dance theater exploring how we reckon with the passage of time through a movement vocabulary of contemporary dance. Aubrey is a Casper girl. She is currently attending school at SUNY Purchase in West Chester County, which is about 40 minutes from New York City. This year she will be a junior. Aubrey, how would you describe what you do?
Yeah, so with this work, I was looking to investigate the crossover between dance and theater and speaking in dance, and looking at the storytelling from a different angle than the classical ballet type of way that I am more familiar with. So this was a totally new thing for me.
Okay, and how long have you been involved with dance?
I started dancing around 3, so a long time. Lots of ballet, and then towards high school-ish, I started getting into more of the modern and contemporary style, which is what I'm making these days.
What kind of drew you into that side of it?
Yeah, I was really excited to play with the modern things because I'm a really big dance history person, and it's really interesting that modern dance in many ways was founded in America. And I also think it's cool to be on the side of what's new as opposed to what's built upon in tradition in the classical styles of dance. So, yeah, and there's a lot of crossover in between that makes it really enjoyable to know both sides of it all.
Would you say that dance is fairly autobiographical and that you bring a lot of your own lived experiences to the table and what you're performing for other people?
I definitely think that the piece I made this time is autobiographical. I wrote a lot of the text and generated the movement at about the same time, and then brought my collaborator Cadence Brown into it. And it was really interesting to see how her takes on the movement and the text really brought her biographical take to it. So, yeah.
Would you say it's emotional?
Yeah, this piece gets into the drama here and there. I think that it plays with a wide range of emotion and some of the humor and some of the frustration and looking at how we reckon with the past and what we've done before and what we're doing now.
Has this been seen by a large audience before?
This is pretty much a premiere for Fringe Fest. This Fringe Fest is really awesome because people at their point in at this point in their career don't really often get the opportunity to make like a concert length work. So I've had some friends and family get their eyes on it and get some feedback and stuff, but it has not been performed yet.
Oh, this is exciting. How did you get involved with Fringe Fest?
All I saw was a Facebook post. I'd known of the lyric. I grew up here, so I was just like, this seems interesting. And I reached out and I was like, I had an inkling of an idea, and then we've been creating this new work this summer.
Oh, very cool. So it's been in the works for a little bit, for a while, for at least a few months?
Yes.
Okay. I will be there, so hopefully I catch some of it. What do you aim to provoke with this? Or do you have expectations?
The style of this piece is not necessarily linear in terms of narrative, and I'm really hoping that people get whatever they need out of it. I'm a big believer in finding your own interpretations for your own take on things.
Now, for the beginning of this podcast, I was really trying to nail down what fringe is. How did you kind of come to understand what this is all about?
Yeah, where I'm going to school is definitely on the edge of the pop culture understanding of what dance and art is out east, and so I was really excited for something that felt like an opportunity to play and to create something that wasn't necessarily intended to be 100% understood.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's sort of exciting. Oh, sorry, I need a little sip of water. I'll have to edit that. Oh, I almost died. Okay, I'm going to write down 432 so I can take that. And likewise to you if you start choking. Okay, yeah, definitely something that I have come to understand fringe as is a little bit provocative. It doesn't have to be, in fact, it frankly isn't mainstream or conformative. Do you find a lot of freedom in that?
I do find freedom in that. We don't have a ton of dance performance in Casper that is on a level above kids and students dancing. And so it's really exciting to bring that here, and to not only bring that here, but also play with the theatrical elements of all of that and feeling the freedom of the amalgamation of all these forms that I'm interested in.
Who at this moment inspires you?
My professor at school, Hannah Garner, runs a company called Second Best Dance. Definitely a big influence on this work. Growing up, I received a lot of support from Dodie Hunter-Eskew and Rebecca Hebert, who have always been there for me and always helped. I'm collaborating with Cadence Brown. She's incredible. We grew up dancing together, and that just made the chemistry of it all work. And I have some dramaturgy help from my friend Kelby Eisenman. So I've got a great crew of people helping me out.
Oh, who were your biggest supporters growing up?
Yeah, I danced at Rising Star growing up with Dodie Hunter-Eskew taking the lead. And then when I was 10 or 11, Rebecca Hebert came in and really drilled me into the ballet technique of it all, and I have to credit her for a lot of where I am today, in not only showing me the ballet of it all, but making me believe in myself enough to go the modern route.
I almost wonder, that foundation, do you think it's sort of one of those things where you have to learn the rules, and then once you've got them, you can break them a little bit, in this sense with the Fringe Fest coming up?
Yeah, in dance technique, there are many perspectives on where all of that comes from, but one of them is that you start with your technique and the groundworks of ballet, and then progress into the other things. And it's really interesting to come from that very principled way of learning things, and then be like, "Ooh, I've never written a play before. Why don't I write a play?" And just kind of throw things at the wall and see what happens.
I think sometimes performance art gets a bad rep where there's an expression that if you don't know what you're watching, it's probably performance art, or we have a picture of someone just like dumping olive oil all over themselves and screaming, or but that's not what your process has been at all. It's not just doing something for the sake of doing it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I am a fan of the performance art where it's undefinable. I think that where I'm living right now has a more recognizable vocabulary, both in the dance movement and in the very informal way we're speaking in the piece. One thing I'm playing with movement-wise and a little bit in the speech is the line between what we consider dance and the codified movement of it all and the pedestrian gesture and what makes what daily movements that someone might look at and say that's not dance. So I'm looking at what is dance, what does the audience see as dance, and all that.
What about theatrics? Mm-hmm. Is this a big part of it too? Yeah, I'm newer to the theatrical side in terms of the analysis of it, but I'm interested in the nonlinear narrative of it all and how the movement strings it all together and puts in some nuance that maybe wouldn't have been read without the crazy leg in the air and then cadences lifting me up upside down and all sorts of stuff like that. I think there's something really special, too, about seeing a live performance. You can record it, and then so many people around the world could watch it, thousands of viewers, millions of viewers. But it's so special to be able to perform something for a select group in your hometown. How are you feeling ahead of this weekend? Yeah, I have a lot of friends and family that'll be there. I'm really excited about that. Pieces of the work are improvisational, so every performance will be a little bit different. That's exciting. I'm really excited about the size of the space being really intimate, so lots to look forward to. Oh, excellent. Have you performed in the Lyric before? I have not. This is new for me. Oh, where have you performed in Casper in the past? I have performed at the auditoriums at Kelly Walsh and NC, as well as the Event Center. As a final question, I do want to ask you, how do you define what is art? Yeah, for me, art is anything that makes you feel something. I think it can be as simple as that. I'm a pretty emotional person and also do not get bored very easily, so something on the street can be art to me. I think the performance of it all is taking all of those inspiration and influences we see and we feel and displaying it for others to feel it with you in the moment.
This has been Report to Wyoming, presented in the public interest by Town Square Media.